besides this? Because I thought when you did that, you sort of went out a little bit further where you already were that zoning. But I understand here, we're actually jumping over some property that is still, you know, agriculture too, right? So then the next time somebody wants to do it, and, you know, to your point, yeah, we don't want to necessarily the scenario that you painted, but by the same token, my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, but if you pass this zoning, and we don't have the final plats and all that stuff, but if they came up and said, you know what, we've had a change of heart, we really would like to build apartments here. My understanding is if it's zoned, you know, for what, R1, that would be allowable, right? So that's a risk that we take as opposed to keeping it where it is, where you can have homes, they can be relatively modest, and people can have more room and less infrastructure demands. So those are just a couple of things I wanted to make sure didn't get lost in the shuffle here. So I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Mr. Romer.
Madam Chairman, can we have Mr. Edwards speak to the apartments question that was presented? Or if Tim wants to speak on it too, I know both of you guys are both on planning commission.
Yeah, multifamily housing is not permitted in R1 zone. Single family. You can
No
have,
apartments would be allowed, correct?
apartments would not be allowed in R1 zoning.
Hey, we,
Any other questions?
is there anyone else who would like to speak in opposition? Yes.
I do have a question. If I may. I was wondering, what would be a density that you would accept? I hear this 120 houses on 35 acres. Is there a density that would be acceptable? Anyone?
Well, there is a density established, is there not, in agriculture too?
Please approach the podium.
We have the zoning experts here. I just read when I was trying to research this on before, but my understanding is that there is a density that is established per acre under the current zoning. And so I would ask that someone share that with us, but if memory serves me correctly, it was on the order of maybe half, you know, you would need twice as much, but we don't need to guess that. We've got the professionals here, so.
Mr. Edwards, would you like to speak to that?
Yes, I can address that. The current lot size, minimum lot size requirement is 20,000 square feet for the A2, which is rural residential, and R1 is 10,000 square feet, minimum lot size.
So that would be half the
It could be, again, this is a rezoning and not necessarily a subdivision review. We have not even, as a planning commission, have not even had an opportunity to look at any subdivision plat. So it's premature for me to say anything about that. But that's the density, is 20,000 lot size versus 10,000 square foot lot size minimum.
I have a copy here of A2 and R1. There are 10 uses permitted on an A2, and they're listed. There's only 2 uses permitted on an R1. R1 can only have a detached single-family dwelling, number 2, daycare homes. There are some special exemptions in both of these, but I think they have to get permission. I have this, we can make a copy during the break for any commissioner that wants that. But we do have the paper here. Thank you.
Question.
If it remains the same, excuse me, the duplexes
Yes, sir.
would be 53 duplexes, was that?
Yes, it would be 53 buildings with obviously 2 units per building. So that's
So-
how I arrived at that 126.
You're talking 106
126 units in 53 buildings. Yes, sir.
and 53 buildings. So 120 homes or 126 the other way, so, and you're saying there is going to be development one way or the other.
Yeah, you know, one of the things and again, I applaud the people of Anderson County for being here and speaking their mind. They're a tight-knit community, and I've gotten to experience a lot of that, and that's not a bad thing. I'm glad. If I lived here, I'd want to do the same, and I think there's a lot of people that would love to live in that community and be a part of that. And so we want to develop this to create homes. We know that there's a large need for that here from everything that's been said from the Planning Commission as well as this commission. And so the biggest difference between the R1 and the A2 in my mind is it is a twice the size lot. So you're about 2 per acre. So if you took that density out, you end up, about 126, 128 units that would be allowed. If you're in the R1, it's a smaller lot, but obviously those have to have setbacks. With a duplex unit, there's no setback between the units, so you do save some space. And so my goal in that revision of the design was a couple things, just to address some of the things that were said. It was, first, I understand the rural setting. I grew up in Grundy County. There wasn't a house within 5 miles of mine. It's just woods. And I know that I liked that, and I understand everyone else does too. And so I pulled everything in, 35 feet on both sides. We're not going to clear. We're not going to grade. I know there was something mentioned about some water runoff. There's a lady that's a neighbor next door that has a current ditch that runs along the edge of the property. We've met with her and agreed we don't want to do anything to impede that, touch it, change it. But as well, leaving as much of that as we can, leaving the entire back covered in trees. And so as well, then the front, leaving 50 feet at least off the road before anything starts, and the homes would be set back considerably further than that. So the goal is to screen that. And the other thing was to pull it 100 feet off of the gentleman that lives at 1566 Mountain Road. His home sets probably 20 feet higher in elevation. And so we didn't want to get near his property line in grading, nor did we want to hurt any of his trees. Getting into the roots, even if you're not on them, you can kill them. And so pulling everything back where nothing would be touched within 100 feet of that, leaving the trees that surround his home, and keeping that rural. And also having an HOA that obviously any neighborhood, it's good to have that to maintain restrictions on what can be done. Changing the outside of the homes, the look of them, anything like that. And so this would have that. And it would also restrict anything within any of those buffer zones. So clearing, building, fencing, nothing can go there. And that would be written into the CC&Rs of the HOA bylaws that would be submitted to the Planning Commission in the event that we got through this and submitted something for, either way, those would be included just to protect the look of the community, keep it maintained the way it needs to be.
So if the request is approved, there'd be 120 homes.
Yes,
If
sir.
it's not approved, then you'd have 126 residences, basically.
Well, what I would say, yes. I'm not an engineer, so my drawing, I think I might have said in my email, please be kind, because I do those. But after engineering, I know we'd end up at that or less. In order to meet all the subdivision regulations, we have to go by the rules with that. And so whatever that would allow within that, but it would be 120 or about there or less, depending on what we needed for stormwater right-of-ways and all of that.
So the school issue wouldn't be affected either way. I mean,
No,
it would be
and
affected both ways.
it could. I think that, these homes, in order to be affordable, it's hard to even say what that word is anymore. It's crazy. I moved to Knoxville in 2008. My home was $94,000. I don't think you can buy anything for that anymore. So keeping these homes where they're in an affordable range in the high 200s and low 300s, which again, saying that's affordable is questionable, but that seems to be the way the market is going compared to the neighborhoods nearby that is considerably more affordable than some of those. Some of those will have people with children, I'm sure, and some will not. Usually in other neighborhoods that I've built, it's usually probably about 30% depending on the area. This area also expect you're going to have people who want to benefit from the lake and people who move here that want to get out of the city. So it's hard to project, but it wouldn't change it much either way as far as that goes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Any other discussion?
Actually, yeah, hey, it'll be real quick.
Very curious. Our local state representatives have also advised the library board recently about discussions in Nashville regarding the realities of Tennessee state law. So I will continue to lead by showing that your bookcase solution is inadequate. And official inquiries will be made as to whether the buck stops with you
Time.
or with the next district attorney.
Thank you, Mr. Mullins.
I got a question.
We're not, this is for, I mean, what's your question, Mr. Allen?
My question, what is 3917-902?
That is the law that was predetermined, that already determines what obscenity is in Tennessee.
State statutes?
Absolutely, yes, sir.
Thank you,
It
sir.
pre-exists this debate,
All right,
and it has
thank
been
you.
ignored here.
Gotcha. All right, is there anyone else who would like to address? Yes, ma'am. Name and address, please.
I'm Mona Smith, 243 Long Mountain Road. And I just want to say, I want to give you another scenario. He already gave you one scenario with the bus lines. The Bible says that the love of money is the root of all evil. And sometimes it shouldn't be just about money. It should be about morals and dedication and loyalty. And the other day, when we had all those storms that came through, one of my friends, best friends, called on the radio and said, I have a tree down. And there are ways that we can go through and say, okay, I'm going to call this person and they need to come out and get it. But I want to give you an example of how my bus family works. They are there to support us for anything. Every time we have a meeting, what do you need? What can we do to support you? They are wonderful people. Matt, which is their son-in-law, part of the company, he already called who he needed to call to say, hey, we've got a tree down. Instead of her being 30 minutes to an hour late, letting those kids stand out there in that weather, Matt got in his vehicle with the chainsaw, and he went and he cut that out of the road so that she could get through. That's what kind of people you're dealing with here. I have heard them talk about so many times, we did this, we did that, we did that, to help take care of these kids that we try to transport every day, because that's the kind of people that they are. That's the kind of people you're trying to lose. And in my book, that's the kind of people you want. People that care enough that when you can't get to the situation fast enough and those kids are standing out there waiting on their bus, they were only 15, maybe 15 minutes late and not an hour late, because my bus family cares enough, not just about their buses and their bus driver, but they care about those kids. And they prove that to me every day, that they care about those kids. We all care about those kids. And in my opinion, you're making a big mistake. It's not always about money. It's not always about money. And someone said recently that loyalty's in the past. Well, that's a sad place to be. Loyalty should be right up there on top, and determination and morals.
30
I just hope and
seconds.
pray you make the right decision. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right. Is there anyone else? All right, seeing none, we will move on to the approval and correction of agendas, first with the consent agenda. All right, we have a motion by Commissioner Isbell to approve the consent agenda.
Well, it's actually a request to speak.
Okay, well, Commissioner, yeah, go ahead.
And, Mr. Chairman, what I'd like to do is, historically in the past, when we do a resolution reading during the public hearing session, we'd always vote on it during the, as an action item during the regular session. And it actually shows, you know, that everybody's united with it. Typically, if it's on a consent agenda, it means it's already approved when you approve the consent agenda. But when that resolution's ready, it becomes an action item. But that's just how we've done it in the past, historically. And if so
Yeah,
allowed,
the-
I'd like to move the scholarship resolution to, under the public hearing report, to be voted on and accepted.
All right. I know that the resolution for Judge Elrod is on, in the law directors.
Yes, sir.
To be voted on. Is there any objection Seeing none? We'll add that to number 6, Mr. Isbell, once we get to the regular agenda.
Okay.
Is there any motion on the consent agenda as presented? Commissioner Isbell, motion. Is there a second? Commissioner Allen. Any discussion on the consent agenda? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All
Thank
right.
you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir. All right. Regular agenda. Is there, Commissioner Yeager, you're recognized.
I'd like to add under new business, a letter to support of DOE infrastructure grant program.
Letter of support. Okay. And then just for just to confirm that the Anderson County Commission scholarship will be under Vice Chairman Vandergrift's public hearing report. And also, Commissioners, it will be on your tablet. It's not on the agenda, but under unfinished business, we'll try to arrive at a date tonight to reschedule our joint planning commission workshop. The one that we had scheduled for, I guess it was the 2nd, I believe had to be reset. So under unfinished business, we will tackle that tonight. Is there any other additions to the agenda? All right, seeing none. Is there a motion to approve the agenda as amended? All right, we have a motion by Commissioner Foster, seconded by Commissioner Wandell. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, agenda is set. Okay, public hearing report, Vice Chairman Vandegrift.
This evening, during the public hearing section of the Anderson County Board of Commissioners, we had 2 action items, the first being the Anderson County Board of Commissioners resolution for the scholarship for honoring the Oak Ridge recipient.
All right, we have a motion by Commissioner Wells and seconded by Commissioner Barron. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
The second action item we had was an amendment to the Anderson County zoning resolution to include rezoning of a property at 1534 Mountain Road, Andersonville. Rezoning from A2 Rural Residential District to R1 Suburban Residential District.
All right. Do we have any motions? Kobe, looks like yeah, it still shows Commissioner Wells and Commissioner Barron on there. All right. Is there a motion on the floor for the zoning resolution, with the zoning change heard in the public hearing? Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Yeager, seconded by Commissioner Allen. Is that for approval? All right.
Will you make sure that was clear what yes and no means?
Yeah, so voting yes on this motion will be you're voting in favor of changing this piece of property from A2 rural residential to R1. Voting no, obviously, you're asking that the property stay the same. Okie doke. Commissioner Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I've talked to well over 100 residents immediately around the Mountain Road community in Andersonville that would be affected by this, and there's just overwhelming opposition to changing the zoning. I know we heard from the developer that it almost sounds like it's going to be about the same density either way, the way that changes, but I know as a commissioner, the only vote we have is over the zoning, and there's not been any actual engineered drawings, so we don't really know how many townhouses it would be, but the vote that I can take right now is on the zoning, so I'll be voting no on that because that's what I can control.
Gotcha. All right, Commissioner Vandegrift.
Just want to follow up what Commissioner Anderson said. I have been contacted by well over 100 citizens of Andersonville and surrounding area. These citizens are very passionate about the community that they live in. They actually organized their own community meetings. They had one last night, had probably 45, 50 people attend those. They've been very active in emailing. I believe most of you probably received emails, calling us. Every time there's been a vote, any discussion, they've been here to represent. And so I'm with Commissioner Anderson. Right now, the only control that I have is to vote no on the rezoning.
Thank you, ma'am. All right, Commissioner Isbell, you recognize, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Historically, I always vote with the committee if it's voted, but sometimes we are the voice of the citizens of Anderson County, not just our district, but all of Anderson County. And I've spoke to numerous, almost talked to Bob, Joe several times, and listened to them, what they have to say. And I know in Knox County, they had a similar situation, and what they did, you know, and it's all about growth, and I'm all for that, but they actually determined a green area where they wouldn't have growth, and I think Andersonville County fits in with that. My other issue is we don't have the infrastructure there yet. You know, the road, if you've traveled the road, it's like being on 25W right now at 5 o'clock in the afternoon where they're working on the bridges. You're not going to turn left. I mean, you got to wait till the traffic stops to turn. You know, it's a windy road, and, you know, we've had this discussion about Brookstone, that, you know, they're still going to build. There's nothing we can do, I mean, because it falls in the regulations. And they can do whatever they want to as far as the mobile homes or the duplexes. But my wishes, and I said this before, is that they would go back and do a smaller development, and I think maybe the people would be happy with that. Not so many, you know, not so dense, but I'll be voting no. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, is there anyone else? Commissioner Palmer.
I just have a real quick question. Did the Planning Commission, are they recommending that we make this rezoning?
That is their recommendation.
That is their recommendation. And either way, it's going to be developed. And if it stays A2, R1, infrastructure, no infrastructure, it can still be developed, correct? That's what I understood. All right, thank you.
All right, thank you, Commissioner. Jay, I do have a quick question, if I may.
Yes, sir.
If there's no one else that will. Commissioner McCamey, I'll get you Commissioner Allen right after.
Either way they go, it's gonna have to go back to the Planning Commission, and that's when infrastructure and schools and everything else, all the concerns will be when and if it goes back before the Planning Commission. There's nothing been approved by the Planning Commission at this point, except that they feel that it needs to be rezoned or should be rezoned, and they're asking us to honor their request.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Allen.
Yes, thank you. I've heard a lot of the arguments back and forth, and I do appreciate the people coming out here. And sometimes I think we as commissioners, we need to really listen to the people, and so I'll be voting no for this.
So, Commissioner Allen, you've seconded a motion for approval.
Yes.
Oh, that's fine. I've just, okay. All right. So, is there anybody else that wants to address this before okay, Commissioner Wandell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I guess I would just like to understand, I know the infrastructure would be discussed later, but, you know, I don't know what the process is when we consider new development in the rural communities. My number one concern, obviously, we need to work with the people in the area, and I hope that the developer will sit down with them and try to work out amenable arrangements. But my number one concern besides that is the sewer. We have issues already out there, and I don't know what processes are in place at the zoning to evaluate the infrastructure for sewer, but it's not adequate now, Mr. Chairman, and I have big concerns if we move forward with anything else. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. All right. Any other commissioners? Commissioner Foster.
And this question, Mayor, might come to you because it's for ACWA or even Planning Commission. If there is a question with the sewer, if we rezone it, they bring it back to Planning Commission. The sewer system, they do not have to allow them to connect to the sewer system. Is that correct? Like, if they go, well, it's not built for the sewer system, they're gonna have to put in a septic tank, so they have to do smaller density. I don't know if you want to answer that, Mayor, or can. I know that's an ACWA question because they own the sewer system, but just if we can't handle, I know Commissioner Wendell just had a question about the infrastructure. If it comes back to Planning Commission, we rezone this, it can't handle that system. Either they have to pay for the upgrades or we don't have to allow them, there's nothing that requires us to allow them to connect to the system.
To
Correct?
my knowledge, that's correct.
Okay.
It would be the same thing. So for instance, with regard to the road, if they're required to do an acceleration lane or a decel lane, then that would be, on the developer, not on the county or on TDOT or anything like that. So that all of those things are worked out at the Planning Commission level, and with ACWA when they go. So yeah.
All right. Any other commissioners? Jay, just really quick. Okay, hold on. Commissioner Isbell.
Yeah, I just want to add something about planning. When it comes before Planning Commission, you see the plans, there are certain things they got to follow, and Mr. Edwards can, talk more about this, is a setback. But some of the stuff that goes in there is by the developer when they do like the resolution or whatever, how it's going to be carried through, and that's done by the developer at first. Isn't that correct, Mr. Edwards? Thank you.
Thank you. Jay, just really quick, if might be a question of ignorance, but does the county commission have any exposure or liability should we vote down a recommendation from Planning Commission, or if said person has checked off all the boxes to either have their property rezoned or development or whatever the case may be, but as a county commission we vote that down, does that, I kind of feel like it moves the goal line a little bit for someone. So does that put us at any kind of risk or exposure?
Well, rezoning is in the exclusive purview of the county commission. Title 13 says that county commission shall approve the rezoning. Is there liability exposure? Just about everything we do in here, there's liability exposure.
True.
And we take it on, we do a good job with it. But it's your duty to vote up or down this rezoning, and anything that comes about in the future, we'll handle it. I wouldn't worry about that on this issue.
Gotcha. All right. Anybody else? Mayor.
I did have one question that did not come up. The issue between duplexes and this planned development that the developer talked about, does one expose, I know one of the big issues on Tasser are corporate entities coming in and purchasing these large developments. Is there more exposure with the duplex scenario than there is for the individual home ownership? And I don't know if anyone can answer that or the developer could answer that. You often hear about this, about the BlackRock and other groups coming in. Can anybody answer that?
I'll give it a shot.
Okay.
This is what's so difficult when we get in this particular position, but I understand why the potential owners want to do this. They want to do their due diligence. We really don't know what's going to go in there. And we won't know that until a site plan is put forward to the Planning Commission. There's a plat with all the authorized signatures around it, including ACWA, the road superintendent, and all that. It makes it hard. It makes it difficult. But right now, we need to understand we're voting only on the rezoning. We're not approving a subdivision site plan here tonight. That's going to be subsequent to this. They'll come back through this exhaustive process through the Planning Commission, where the plans will be reviewed, the site plan, the plat, and everything. We'll know more about lot lines and setbacks and how it's going to be laid out then. But tonight, you're only looking at rezoning, and that's it. That's the sole issue. And it puts you in a dilemma. You really don't know what's going to be there. But that's how it works. Thank you.
All right. Seeing none, no other discussion? Commissioner Val, did you hit?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I was debating on whether or not, but I listened to the comments of my fellow commissioners, and Commissioner Palmer and the chair asked some really good questions. And here's the way I look at it, and my friend Tim can correct me on this if I'm wrong. Planning Commission has a role when stuff like this goes on, and they're looking at all the rules, all the regulations, all the laws. They're educated on this stuff. Trevin's talked about the advisor that comes and advises, and I'm glad they do that. Have the utmost respect for the Planning Commission for keeping up with all those rules. Thank God we as county commissioners don't necessarily have to know all of that integral stuff, okay? But what we do need to know is, regardless if Planning Commission says we think this is a good idea, there's a purpose why it still comes to us as the legislative body. We still have a responsibility to listen to other factors, other components in these decisions. I think one of them is the people who live in that area, who this development, regardless of what it winds up being, is going to affect. Now, could it be one development over another without them even having to come to us? Could be. But what I'm hearing tonight is the fact that we have some constituents, and I respect Commissioner Anderson, Commissioner Vandegrift for going and meeting with them, who are coming to us asking us not to approve this. So if it's really not a major difference either way, then it's certainly not going to hurt us to vote the way that our constituents are asking us to vote for. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Commissioner Wells.
I would just request if we can do this in a roll call or electronic vote, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir. Kobe. Oh, okay. Well, easy switch. Okey doke. Seeing no other discussion, go to the board and vote, please. Seven yes, 9 no. The motion fails. All right. Does that conclude your?
That concludes.
Okey doke. I would imagine, I'm going to give a brief pause because I would imagine that that's going to clear out some folks. We did on the first, we did it first. On the, yeah. All right. Moving forward. All right, presentation of reports, County Mayor Terry Frank.
I have no items, Mr. Chairman.
We have no items from Mayor Frank. Any questions for the mayor?
It's your favorite kind of report.
Commissioner White.
Thanks, sir. Mayor, we've heard about the bus drivers for 2 months, or maybe 3 months now. And I know the contracts are lowest and best.
Yes, sir.
Can anything be done? And maybe this is a question for you, or Mr. Yeager, or Mr. Parrott, I don't know. But it seems like that we're turning out to pasture some awful good drivers that's provided some awful good service to our kids. And our kids is, in my opinion, the most important thing that we represent or try to protect. And I just wonder have we exhausted every avenue that we have to keep the current bus drivers, the bus operators that we have? Have we exhausted that?
Commissioner White, I have not been in communication with the winning bidder, but I am aware I was contacted by 3 bus drivers for the current routes who have accepted positions, and then I read the Courier every week and I see these folks running ads, and the folks who did right say that they were hired to run their same routes and that they were hired at a higher wage.
I will, if it's okay with you, Commissioner White, we're actually going to be tackling that specific contract and issue in the purchasing report.
Thanks, sir. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
Okay, nothing for the mayor. All right. Dang. Director Holbrook, it's your turn.
Mr. Chairman, I've never seen our audience clear out and a brand new one come in like in a shift like that. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah, I'm just not sure how.
Second shift.
Yeah.
Okay, starting out with the budget report, cash and fund balance report, ending April 30th, 2024. Restricted funds of 1.5 million. The committed funds are at 1.2 million. Assigned funds for the general fund, 4,123,188. Unassigned fund balance, 10,467,094. For a total fund balance of 17,334,384. Cash for the month ending April was 22,262,740, which is up 1.9 million from last April. Any questions on the fund balance report? For general fund or any other funds?
All right, Commissioner Wandell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Robbie, the cash trends, Fund 121,
Yes, sir.
ARP funds,
Yes.
is that 22 million include?
No, 121 is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 slots down there from 101, the general fund. It's 5,667,741.
So the cash balance does not include that?
Does not in the general fund, no. That's
Thank you.
just the general fund cash balance.
Yep, thank you.
Like school cash balance is 20,134,757.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir. Any other questions for Director Holbrook? All right, seeing none, go ahead, Robbie.
Okay, sales tax report, March numbers of the county as a whole, 3.9 million, up 3.9% from a year ago. The county's portion, 441,473, 9.6% increase.
All right.
And the next is a grant list, grant inventory list that we provide each month. No changes there. And the last report is the ARPA projects report, showing 1.7 million in revenue loss. Still available. We did commit $330,000 in budget last month for fire departments and rescue squad. These funds have to be obligated by December 31st, 2024, with a PO or a contract.
Okey-doke.
Any questions?
Any questions for Director Holbrook? Seeing none.
Okay. Group 2 appropriations from the school department. There are 3 of those. Seeking approval as a group. Answer any questions, as well as Dr. Parrott.
Okay, we've got a motion by Commissioner Foster, seconded by Commissioner Allen. Any discussion? Seeing none, go to the board and vote, please. Sixteen yes, 0 no, motion passes.
Thank you. Under Group 3 transfers from the school department, there is 1 transfer for $100,000.
Okey-doke, we got a motion by Commissioner Foster and seconded by Commissioner Beauchamp. Any discussion? Seeing none, go to the board and vote. Sixteen yes, 0 no, motion passes.
Okay, thank you. Under Group 4 appropriations, non-school, I would like to take the first 9, 23 through 37, and then do 39 separately, please. If we could get 23 through 39, 30, 32, and 37.
All right, we have a motion,
Will you repeat those again?
Yes. 23, 24, 25, 26, 28, 29, 30, 32, and 37.
correct. And seconded by Commissioner Allen. Commissioner Isbell, you're recognized.
No, I was just making sure that, I heard 39 again the second time, but so we're going to
Yes,
take
sir.
it up separately. Thank you.
All right, so motion is everything under Group 4 except number 39. Is there any discussion on those items? Please go to the board and vote. Motion passes.
Okay, under 39 from the Conservation Board, there was a budget amendment passed in the committee for $46,189.25 for a new tractor or a Bobcat, which the cost of it is $53,161.25. We were using the sports gaming tax, but Commissioner Palmer asked a question today about the sports gaming tax, and I hadn't looked at this opinion. I mean, when we first started collecting this in November of 2020, there were some specific rules for the use of the sports gaming tax, which is infrastructure projects, including without limitation transportation and road projects, as well as public buildings. So I don't really think a Bobcat falls under that category. And so the Parks does have a reserve, $53,000. We could take it from there. That would pretty much wipe out the reserve, or we could use ARP funds or unassigned fund balance. If I know they really need this. I think Josh could speak to that. He's the chairman of that committee.
All right, real quick, though, I have a motion by Commissioner McCamey, and that is
Take it out of ARP funds.
take it out of the ARP funds.
Thank you.
Okey-doke, we've got a motion. Is that your second, Commissioner Smallridge?
Yes.
Okay. All right, Commissioner Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I'll have to check the minutes from the Conservation Board, but I think when we thought we could use sports betting tax, we had originally hoped to maybe use up to half of our reserve to pay for it, but we didn't want to completely deplete that because we've got a pretty serious erosion issue with the county road that goes into the park, and so we're going to have to address that at some point soon. I know the mayor, I think, has been working on maybe some communication with TVA about helping with the road, but we don't know how much that's going to cost, so we weren't wanting to deplete the reserve completely.
Gotcha. All right, Commissioner Isbell, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As many people know, one of the facets of my business is working on heavy and light equipment. And the particular brand that they're looking at is good for my business. And with the warranty on there, it's only a 2,000 hour warranty versus the other one is 3,000 hours. And typically that's when we start seeing repairs is after 2,000 hours. I know it's a low price. I'm not saying it's a bad piece of equipment. I'm just saying and Commissioner Foster can probably tell you about the Kubota brand that he bought. I don't know if it's going to be more. And I asked Mr. Vickery, and I don't think he had time to get a quote from Kubota, but that's just my vote.
Gotcha. That's good information. Commissioner Foster.
I'd actually like to see this go back to budget since it's coming out of the ARP, well, the motion on the table. And when we talked about it in budget, it was coming out of a different fund, and so our discussion. So that would be like, I'd like to see that.
Okay.
Is that a motion to refer it back?
I will make that motion.
I'll second it.
I would just like to say this has been, this piece of equipment has not been in use for 3 months. They leased one for 2 weeks. That was $1,800. I think they really need it at the parks during their busiest season. If we wait another month, you're looking at July. And they do not have the funding to lease another one in their budget. I would advise not to wait, but that's just me.
I'm gonna keep my second. I mean, you can get another motion from someone else.
All right, so we've got a motion. You were the motion maker, right, to refer it back to budget? And you were the second. I know there's debate on whether a deferral motion or a referral motion can be debated. A deferral cannot be, a referral can be, just for the record. Is there anybody that wants to speak on the referral motion made by Commissioner Foster? I'm not going to ask you, I'm going to ask Robert. Robert, do we need to vote on the referral motion before we, all right.
If the referral motion passes, then the other
Wipes it
motion's
out.
dead anyway.
Right.
But before we vote on it, I want to speak.
Yes, sir.
You heard what Robbie said, and referring it back to the Budget Committee is referring it back to 8 of our members here. All 16 of us here. And why can't we just do it tonight? You know, I'm going to vote against referring it back. I want to vote on it tonight.
Yes, sir. Commissioner Yeager.
I'm not opposed to this tractor, but I'm opposed to the funding mechanism.
Of the ARP funds?
Yes.
Got you. All right. Any discussion on the referral anymore before we go to a vote? Those in favor of the referral motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No.
I'd like a roll call, please.
Show of hands of your aye vote. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Motion fails. Okey doke. Back to the motion. Huh?
Question on the original motion.
All right, we have a call to question on the original motion. I know. We got it. Are you seconding that motion, sir?
No, I'm not.
We have a second by who?
I'll second it.
Commissioner Wandell. Commissioner Palmer.
So are we going to discuss funding? Are there other options other than the ARP?
You can only discuss
Well,
the question.
we're
Okay.
at the call to question right now.
Okay.
So we have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
No.
Motion carries. All right,
I'd like a roll call.
it's too late, with all due respect. All right, go to the board and vote on Commissioner McCamey's motion, which is to pay for the equipment out of the ARP funds. All right, motion passes 9 yes, 7 no. Thank you.
Okay, Group 5 appropriations, the general fund, that affect the general fund unassigned fund balance. There are 3 of those, 27, 31, and 38.
All right, we have a motion by Commissioner Allen as a group, sir.
Yes, sir.
Is there a second? We have a second by Commissioner Foster. Any discussion on Group 5? Seeing none, go to the board and vote. Sixteen yes, motion passes.
All right, and Group 6 transfers non-school, there are 4 of those, 33, 34, 35, and 36.
All
Seeking
right,
approval.
Commissioner Allen with the motion. as a group, seconded by Commissioner Foster. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, go to the board and vote, please. What is your vote, sir? And we'll go ahead and, are we good? Motion passes.
Okay, thank you. Under Group 7 miscellaneous, Section A, grant applications, there were 4 of those from the sheriff, mayor, and 2 from the Norris Library.
All right, we have a motion by Commissioner Beauchamp and a second by Commissioner Allen. Any discussion on these? Seeing none, go to the board and vote. 16 yes, motion passes.
Okay, great. And under Section C, the Fire Commission requests for the ARP funds, out of ARP funds for $330,000 to all volunteer fire departments, the rescue squad, and the city fire departments. This will not take place until the 24-25 budget.
All right, so we have a motion for approval by Commissioner Beauchamp and a second by Commissioner Smallridge. Commissioner Isbell, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm all in favor of this, but the one thing that comes into question to me is this is it's supposed to be a continuance of a fire truck resolution. And this is a one-time fund that's going to be split up. Unless we have some coming out of a recurring fund, what are they going to do next year? If they go out and they commit to a fire truck and they order one with their $33,000, and next year it's not funded, how are they going to make that payment?
Yeah, and I'm happy to defer to Commissioner Wandell, who made the presentation, but the way I understood it was this would be, the request was a one-time request for this year, and then we would kind of come back to the drawing table earlier in the process, maybe in the fall or around that time, to discuss kind of the path moving forward. But this wouldn't be a fire truck resolution, but it would be funding for them to, whether it be equipment purchase.
Okay, so it's not going to be earmarked for equipment that it would have to be approved by the finance director. So it would go to each fire department.
That was the
to be
request at the budget committee, yes, sir.
And then we'd work on the fire truck resolution going forward.
That would be, yes, sir. Commissioner McCamey.
Like I said, this is continuation of the fire truck resolution. So basically, everything in that resolution, except the fact that we will buy a fire truck, would basically be the same. We're just using that amount of money, the $330,000 per year. I agree, we need to shore up that resolution, and I'm sure county law director could do that, but and get each department to sign off on it prior to this money being distributed. But it'd be basically the same thing, and what they're doing, they're providing first responder services for us. You know, the rescue squad, city of Oak Ridge, city of Clinton, and all the rural fire departments. So it is a continuation of that resolution, except instead of a fire truck, it's $330,000.
Yeah. Okay, Commissioner Foster.
So, just clarification, it was my understanding that it was for equipment when we passed out a budget, is that not?
So, yeah, and I'm happy to defer, but again, if I'm misspeaking, Commissioner Wandell, just please.
You're doing fine, Chairman.
Is that this would, the fire, I mean, if the volunteer fire department elected to use their contribution towards the payment of a fire truck, that would be the fire department's purview, but this would be for capital, equipment or anything like that. Yeah.
That's what my clarification, sorry, thanks.
Commissioner Yeager.
What's the funding mechanism on this? Is this ARP also?
It
Yes,
is
sir.
this year.
Okay.
I would like to, if it's appropriate, I don't know if we have to do, I'd like to hand the gavel over to Commissioner Vandergriff, because I'd like to just say a few things about this. If I'm ready. Okay. Never had to do that. So I support this, and but in the spirit of what Commissioner Isbell is talking about is how do we look at this going forward? There are two things that I want the body to consider, and I'm not asking for a vote tonight, but I just want the body to consider two things. One, I spoke at length about at Budget Committee. One being that our sales tax revenue gets distributed amongst, so let's say if we get $1 million, half of that money is going to go to all of the schools in Anderson County, not just the county schools, but all schools. Well, then 63% will go to general fund, 37% goes to highway of that distribution. What I would like Commission to consider, I know Mr. Long will be at the next budget meeting, is annually he turns in close to $500,000 a year in salaries, positions that are unfilled, that are not being advertised. What I would recommend is that with the 330 or whatever that number is that we arrive at, is that we take $350,000 of that sales tax money and allocate it for first response and for this as a continuation annually, where it would be a line item in the budget that every year that they would get this money. So that was one thought process. The other thought process, I'm not even going to use the word tax. And I know that some are against this because of maybe it may hurt, it could hurt fundraising, but to consider a public safety fee in the rural parts of the county, well, I don't know what that amount would be, but this is not going away, and the need is ever growing. So I just want the body, I just throwing those out there that I will hopefully be more polished come next month with some ideas, but just consider a public safety fee that would go on like a utility bill or whatever it may be, that would be paid over an annual time. So if it's a $25 bill, that it could be paid over 12 months. Just something that gives our volunteer fire departments and our rescue squad something that they know that is coming in on an annual basis. And it's something that also, you know, it hits every citizen in Anderson County. So I know I can't speak until after the motion, but that's all I wanted to, I just wanted to bring those points up for us to consider as a body and to be thinking of over the next 30, 60 days.
Commissioner Palmer?
Yes, thank you. I have really struggled with this, and I've met with Daniel Adams for a couple hours and asked a lot of questions, got a really good feeling of what goes on there at Medford. I still have some questions, and I'm not opposed to this at all, but I think that I am right now because I feel like we need to have more discussion. This just came up in May, $330,000. We need, it's not going away, just as you said, and we still need to have some more discussion on this. And I would like to see that happen before we just put a Band-Aid or just to give, you know, a one-time money from the ARP funds. Thank you.
Commissioner Bowe?
Thank you, Ms. Vice Chair. I appreciate the comments that have been made, but I'd like to point out a couple of items that maybe some commissioners don't know. We have a fire commission who meets monthly now. When I was on there, it was every other month. They meet monthly, and I really appreciate Commissioner Wandale and Commissioner Beauchamp for serving on the fire commission, because I have come to see that it really does benefit all the fire departments, not just the rural ones, but all the fire departments. To Commissioner Palmer's point, this actually is not a matter that just got brought up in me. I know some of us may be hearing it for the first time. The issue of funding the fire departments, especially the volunteer ones, has been an ongoing issue for a very long time. We had the fire truck resolution. It expired, I guess, for lack of a better term. Commissioner McCamey may correct me on that. Expired, I guess, is how I look at it. We debated for a long time. The fire commission would come up with an idea of what they would like to see happen. We would bring it to the legislative body. For whatever reason, we would decide, no, that's not the route to go. The mayor came up with a couple of very good ideas. They didn't come to fruition. We didn't approve those. So now we've finally gotten to a point to where the fire commission is saying, we like this idea. And if I remember correctly, and Chief Adams can correct me if I'm wrong, I think it was a unanimous decision of the fire commission, hey, let's ask for this. And our representatives on the fire commission, Commissioner Wandell specifically, came to the budget committee and reported to us, this is what the fire commission would like to see done. And I really admire them because one of the ideas we batted around was, let's just do it for the volunteer departments. And the volunteer department said, no, we want the cities to have this contribution as well because they help us and we help them. I don't want to lose that. I really don't want to lose that. I think it benefits all of our districts when we do something like this. So I would like to ask the commission to vote for this tonight. The funding source, certainly, we can debate that later on, but I'd like to see us vote this up tonight. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any other discussion? Commissioner Wandell?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I've enjoyed the conversation. I like the ideas. I especially like the ideas of setting up a long-term solution for the volunteer fire departments. And Commissioner Val, I appreciate the comments. You're absolutely right. This wasn't something myself or Commissioner Beauchamp brought the idea up. We attend the meetings, we start them off, we even do our prayer and pledge. And, you know, it's been really an eye-opening experience to be a commissioner sitting up here now 17 years. And I know I mention his name often, Commissioner Hahn, and what he went through, and Commissioner Val served, and many others. But to see the volunteers, fire departments, EMS, sheriff makes it when they can, constables, EMA, E911, sheriff or the mayor comes when she can, and I know she's got a busy schedule, but to see them all working together the way they have been is just really encouraging. For us commissioners who serve on that in a committee capacity, you don't always get to see results, and it's because of each of you we're seeing the results, not us. We're just carrying the paper to this body. So, you know, I heard about the sports betting earlier. Some of you may remember I made a motion to have those funds go to the volunteer fire departments. That motion passed unanimously. I was told later I couldn't do that, and I get it, and Robbie corrected me on that. But I was looking for ways to get our volunteers money then. So this is ARP money, and this is money that the government, federal government, gave us to take care of our communities. I'm in full support of using these funds like all the other funds I've used and voted for, whether it's EMS vehicles or paving roads in our county or whatever it may be. I'm for it. It's not the taxpayers' dollars. It's the federal dollars that we get to use. And so next meeting, Commissioner Beauchamp has already whispered in my ear, we'd like to start that exploration of how we're going to fund this group long term. So I'll be supporting this, and I do appreciate discussion. And any of these commissioners, my fellow friends, feel free to reach out to us. We'd like to hear your ideas. Thank you.
Any other comment? Commissioner McCamey?
I know I already spoke once, but I wanted to point out the last fire commission meeting I did attend it, and the fire commission was 100% behind it. And you know, that's something that I've been to others when Shane was there, and I almost got run out of the building. So, but they were in full agreement, and, you know, I think it's a good representation all across the county, so.
Anyone else? So the motion on the floor is to approve $330,000 to be evenly distributed among both paid and volunteer fire departments in replacement of the previous fire truck resolution utilizing the ARP funds.
Yes.
So I guess we need to go to the board and vote. Motion passes. 14 yes, 2 no.
Okay, thank you. And the last thing I have on the budget agenda is the fiscal year 24-25 budgets. We've devoted a lot of time in the last 3 to 4 budget meetings for next year's budget. We cannot vote on that budget tonight or anything that's happened yet because we are having a public hearing June 6th at 4 o'clock before the budget committee, the next budget committee starts. But just to give you all an idea or a heads up on what the budget committee has passed so far, all budgets have been passed, have been approved by the budget committee. From the special call meeting on April 25th, a motion was approved to move EMS 118 fund to the general fund. There was also a motion to approve EMS increase billing rate 30%, which should generate an additional $599,000 in new revenue. The last motion approved in the special call was to flip the tax levy for the library and EMS fund with EMS receiving .0258 and the library .0212 with a flip. From a regular scheduled budget meeting this month, the school budgets 141 and 143 were approved with a 4% increase for all employees. And all general fund budgets were approved with a 4% increase as well for the employees. So that's the budget highlights in a nutshell. We will be bringing this to full commission in the June commission meeting. And changes could be made in the next meeting. So it's always a possibility.
What time is the public hearing?
The public hearing will be at 4. Right, budget meeting starts at 4, so we'll do the public hearing first thing on the agenda. Thursday, June 6th, and it's been published in the Courier.
All right, Commissioner Wandell?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I probably am out of order for speaking about something that has no actions, but number 18, item B, that under Mayor, she had actually, I wanted the volunteers to know, the firefighters, that the mayor did propose increasing the annual contribution from $26,500, I think that's the number, up to $36,000, and I just want them to know that there's no action taken on that, but the mayor did bring it to the budget committee. Thank you.
All right. Okey-doke, moving on to the purchasing report.
Okay. And their purchasing report, which this seems like a while back, but on April 22nd, 2024, we had a special call meeting just for the SCU bus lines in Andersonville contract. Out of that meeting, a contract for SCU was approved by the purchasing committee unanimously to for a 5-year, 6 years with a 6-year 1 renewal options. Also, that during that meeting, we went into executive session, and that is an option for you guys as well tonight if somebody wanted to make a motion to.
Okey-doke. Commissioner Beauchamp.
I'd like to make a motion that we go into executive session with the law director.
Okey-doke. All right, we have a motion for executive session. Is there a second? We have a second by Commissioner Yeager. Is there any discussion on the motion? All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed?
No.
Motion carries. Okey-doke. We are, folks, executive session is a time where You have to exit the room. County Commission will be discussing legal issues with the law director.
We need it. I know. Might be to build an extension, right?
Good job. Handle that.
Yeah. All right, let's give Andy a second to get us back on. We're good? All right.
You want me to read the motion from purchasing?
Huh?
Would you like me to read the motion from purchasing committee?
No, I think we, so, all right. Do we have any motions on the SCU contract? All right, we have a motion by Commissioner Varon, seconded by Commissioner Beauchamp. All right, I will open it up for discussion. Yes. Is there any okay, Commissioner Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I do realize that we're looking at probably litigation from either side, either way we vote on this. And one of the reasons I think that is maybe speaks to some of the correctness that maybe Jay's talked about. And I know that that's not what we're voting on tonight. It's not correctness. It's whether there was fraud or whether the contract's okay. But I do think we're going to have to work on the bidding process and some of those correctness issues, not tonight, but at some point, to try to get us out of a situation where yes, it means we're going to get sued, no, it means we're going to get sued. So, and I do have some concerns about whether the company will be ready to go on the first day of school. So I'm going to be voting no on the contract. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir. Okey doke. Is there anyone else that would like to address commission? All right. Seeing none, we will.
Excuse me.
Yes, sir.
Could you clarify the motion?
So the motion, Robbie, if you want to go, this would be a good time to.
Commissioner Wells made a motion to approve contract 24-0114 to SCU Bus Lines. Its term is 6 years with 6 one-year renewal options, pricing from a competitive RFP. And the motion passed unanimously in purchasing
And
committee.
For confirmation, Commissioner Varon, that is your motion to approve, and Commissioner Beauchamp, your second. Okey doke. Is that good? Commissioner Smallridge, you good?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Seeing no other discussion, please go to the board and vote. Eleven yes, 5 no. Motion passes.
Okay, thank you. In the regular session of the purchasing committee, May 13th, 2024, there were 4 contracts approved by the law director, seeking approval as a group.
All right, we have a motion by Commissioner Yeager as a group, sir. Yes. Seconded by Commissioner Beauchamp. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, please go to the board and vote. Uh, 16 yes, motion passes.
Thank you. Under request to surplus capital assets, there were 5 vehicles, 2 sheriff and 3 MS vehicles for surplus sale.
Okey-doke, we have a motion by Commissioner Beauchamp, seconded by Commissioner Yeager. Any discussion? As a group? Is this as a group? Okay. All right, please go to the board and vote. Actually, I think that I have this as a voice vote. Is that correct? We're not appropriating anything? Huh? No, it's voice vote's fine. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, and the last thing on the agenda under new business was State of Tennessee Office of Criminal Justice Programs, a grant contract for $67,000 per year to include salary and benefits.
Robbie, I thought that was, my apologies.
Yes, no.
I thought we had already approved that.
No, sir.
No, I'm
There's-
going to be making a motion to
Oh, that's, okay.
refer it back to purchasing due to some changes in this grant that need to be updated.
All right. You want to, did you say a motion to refer it back or defer?
Refer it back to
Refer it back.
purchasing.
All right, so we have a motion by Commissioner Yeager to refer this item back to purchasing. Is there a second? Yeah, Commissioner Yeager. All right. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. It is referred back to purchasing.
Okay, that's all I have for the purchasing agenda.
Okey-doke. Oh, go ahead.
No, did you have something else?
Well,
I got a question for
I
Robert.
felt Commissioner Beauchamp staring me down.
Good point.
After this question, we will take a brief recess.
Robbie, when a bid goes out through purchasing, what's the process?
The process?
Here's my question.
Yes, sir.
There's a bid that's went out for Anderson County Fire Protection Study. How did that happen? I didn't see it on the minutes of the purchasing reports, and I'd like to know, why are we doing this? Who requested this? And why did it not come through Fire Commission?
So I can answer that. Mr. Chairman, I worked with Director Kidwell, myself, Randy Walters, and Nathan Sweet. And this is being paid for through grant funds. RFPs don't have to receive commission approval for goods or services. So that is how that came to be.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
If you may, I'd like to respond, and I'll make it short. I'm not here to debate tonight, but it would seem, as we all sit around this table and discuss just about every month the need to work through committees and that work needs to be done at the committee level, it's hard to do the work at the committee level if the committee is not included. It bothers me to find out about this, and we just had discussion about how great the Fire Commission and all the entities are working. As I read the proposal, I have some concerns with things like going on site, doing studies. I'm not aware of all this, but I just wanted to bring it to all of our attention. Mayor, I would like to get more information if I could. I know you reference, or the bid references the Fire Commission would have a member on there, but it just kind of caught me off guard. Sometimes I'm accused of catching people off guard, but the one thing you can guarantee is Tracy Wandell is going to go through the committees and do it the proper way. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, as promised, we will take a 5-minute recess.
Mr. Chairman,
Madam.
may I address a couple things? There was a comment made earlier that we need to look at process for purchasing and how we award bids. Yeah, I think if you will look over, at least in my history here, over 10, going on 12 years in Anderson County government, our purchasing department has done a really fantastic job of posting bids, of setting up a scoring process. These things are reviewed by the department. The law director's office is involved, and I can't think of, maybe I'm missing one, but I can't think of any other area where we have been challenged, to my memory. Jay, maybe you have some other memory, but
We've had questions, but
yeah.
I think you're exactly correct. They've done a wonderful job over the years.
So I did want to clarify that, since we're on public airwaves, and the purchasing process is taken very seriously. So.
Thank you. Commissioner Beauchamp, is 5 good?
I'll try.
All right, we're going to take a 5-minute recess.
Where's our audience?
Let's say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, we're good. How many we got? Oh, yeah, we're good. We can sell the courthouse this many. All right. Dr. Parrott, thank you for patiently waiting.
Thank you. Hey, I hope you got a chance to read my report. Just a couple of things. Just to let you know, we graduated 544 students at 4 different graduations, and they had an estimated value of scholarships in excess of $19 million. So they're doing a good job. Yep. One of the things I will say, some of the things that are going on that we're dealing with right now, I really can't talk about all that stuff right now because it's still under investigation, but I can assure you, if I hope all y'all know me around here long enough to know if I find something, I'm going to deal with it, and we're going to make it right, and we're going to do things that it never happens again. And again, I apologize for what has happened. It's under my watch, and it makes us all look bad.
All right, before I
take
go
any
to
questions.
any questions, I'm just going to lay this out here, this rule, where tonight we are not talking about anything related to Clinton High School, period. Microphones will be shut off if that's the case. All right.
Dr. Parrott, did you get wet?
We got a little wet at the graduation at Clinton High School, yes, but listen, it rained for about 5 minutes and then it quit. It was funny, me and Bruce Lay, we'd been texting all day because Oak Ridge had theirs at the same time, and he texted me and he said, well, we got wet. I said, well, we did too, so.
All right.
But when you do it, you just have to do it, but it was a good time.
Commissioner Allen.
Yeah, I just want to thank the director for that very, very good report. I think that's what we should be doing is to that level. It's very, very good. Thank you so much for that report.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Commissioner Wells or Val, did you have anything?
I was just casually asking, does that mean we can't ask about the softball field?
No, you can ask me about the softball field. Listen, we played on the softball field. Hey, listen, I want to publicly thank Tim Isabel. You may not know it, but he built the dugouts and did a fantastic job of it. And Tim,
They
if
do
you go
look
to the
great.
high school, he builds the fence. I mean, Tim is one of those people, and a lot of y'all do this, but Tim really, his talents, he uses those for our kids, and I really appreciate that. And the school board's going to honor him when school gets back in, but I just want to publicly thank
They
him.
do
for what he
look
does.
phenomenal.
It's God-given talent, and all glory to God.
Yep.
All right. Well, Dr. Parrott, you have a good,
Hey, thank you
I
all.
would say evening, but I messed that up a long time
Yeah,
ago.
we'll get
Sorry,
something
sir.
a little-
Hope you have a
thank
good night's sleep.
Thank you all.
All right. Moving on to the law director. Mr. Yeager?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, members of the County Commission. Got a couple action items for you tonight. Any questions on my written report on Section A, contract approvals? Section B, the zoning violations? Okay, you got bankruptcies. Let's see. Item F is your first action item. You've got the courthouse security report. Last year, Judge Spitzer brought that to you in person. That's by statute, has to be done each year. You've got that. It needs to be spread on the minutes, and that needs to be the motion.
Jay, really quick, can this motion be grouped with anything, or does it have to be by itself?
You can group it, but it
Okay.
needs to be spelled out.
Right.
It's a little bit more difficult than a purchasing contract approval.
Commissioner Foster, your motion.
We need approval on the court security.
Just spread on the minutes is all that needs to be done. You're not approving the actual language of it.
Right. I was just saying if we did the court security report and then the resolution for Judge Elrod as a group. I didn't know if that was appropriate.
That's fine.
Okay, that'll be my motion.
Okay, good.
All right. Any questions or any discussion on the motion? All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. Lawsuit update, you'll see Gillespie, that's another pro se inmate medical issue. It's been dismissed, no liability on Anderson County. Donation of a surplus sheriff's vehicle. It's a 2011, I believe it's a Crown Vic. It's going to Norse. We need approval. There's a resolution in your agenda packet for that. It's already been surplus by the county, just going to Norse now.
I make that motion.
Any discussion on the motion? All right. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Item I is, I was requested to do this by, I believe, Budget Committee. Resolution to repeal the litigation tax of $12.50 for the use and benefit of the Public Defender's Office. This has been on the books here since 2003, and the request, the resolution will repeal that litigation tax of $12.50.
Okey-doke, so we've got a motion by Commissioner Yeager, seconded by Commissioner Beauchamp. And this just needs a simple majority to repeal, correct? A resolution?
2/3.
It does need a
Yeah,
two-thirds?
it's passed by 2/3.
Okay. Commissioner McCamey? I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you. You said what the purpose was?
The purpose of repealing it, I mean, why, if it's been in effect since when, Jay?
2003.
03.
2003.
Why all of a sudden is it not necessary anymore?
Commissioner, I'll defer to, yeah, Commissioner Beauchamp?
So looking over this, we were looking into all the $12.50 matters that was going to the Public Defender's Office. And the Public Defender's Office is getting every criminal case $12.50. So even if they have a conflict on that case and the judges appoint a new attorney, they're getting that $12.50. If I go out and hire private counsel today and chose not to use the Public Defender's Office, they're getting that $12.50. So I think the question to me is, should they be getting every bit of that? And then I think with the recent, one of my reasonings for making that motion was the recent thing that we had come to budget where we had the law, or not the lawsuit, I said that today, but the medical bill that could cost us $1 million. We've got to try to start figuring out money from somewhere that we can, even if it is small, $12.50, I think that comes out to around $22,000 a year.
I didn't run the budget numbers.
I think it's somewhere around there, maybe 23,000. So why should they get all the money when they're not representing all the cases, was my ideal on that. But we've got to kind of collect that money back from somewhere to recoup our funds on that medical bill.
But isn't this money paid for by the,
Court cost.
it's paid out of the court cost?
Mhm.
But if we repeal this, is it still in effect, the $12.50, and it goes into another fund, or does it just cut it off?
It would just come out for right now.
Yeah, I think it'd be cut off, hard cut off. And then a new resolution would have to be made if we wanted to put in a new litigation tax for $12.50.
Right.
But this is not being paid for by tax dollars,
No, it's been paid for by defendants.
by the defendant.
Mhm.
So, okay. I don't understand why, if it was a good idea in 2003, why it's not still a good idea today.
All right. Commissioner Anderson.
Just for clarification, and correct me if I'm wrong, but from budget, we took it away. We didn't repeal the $12.50. It is moving it to the general fund. Was that was the motion in the action item? I know Robbie's not here now. Mayor, is that what you remember too? Or at budget, just so I'm clear, but I think everybody else, the $12.50, we're just moving it away from the public defender and moving it to the general fund.
Well, I think,
You
but I
would need
think
a new
it's
resolution.
a two-step process. You have to do a repeal, and then
We would have to have a new resolution.
Right,
and
exactly.
then do a new resolution for how you want to collect
Yeah.
it.
But it doesn't take the $12.50 away.
It does.
It does?
So this,
Yeah.
if we vote to repeal this tonight, the $12.50 will stop tonight. I mean, start tomorrow, it's done. In order to get that into the general fund, a new resolution outlining the 1250 and where it's to go will have to be voted upon by this body again. All right, Commissioner Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I probably should have asked Robbie this while he was here, but what does this $22,000, what line items does it fund, and what's the total public defender's budget? So how much of a budget cut would this be to them? Does anybody know that?
I think that if I may, the public defender's budget was actually cut in budget committee, but I think it was to mirror that revenue. So the 22 odd some $1,000. At the time, we were paying $41,000 towards the department, but the revenue was half of that. So, in terms of just looking at them side by side, but
Yeah. Can I speak?
yes, sir.
There is somewhat of a maintenance of effort there. The statute says for whatever we give the district attorney general, 75% of that has to be matched to the public defender's office. So that's the other revenue source that remains in place.
Right.
So we're fulfilling the maintenance of effort.
Yes.
Even with
This is a litigation tax is under a separate statutory authority and is not part of that.
Okay.
As long as we keep whatever the funding is for the DA's office, 75% of that has to go to the public defender's office.
Right. All right. Commissioner Val?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To kind of add a little bit of clarity, Budget Committee's aware of this. I want to thank Commissioner Beauchamp for bringing this up. We're going to be receiving a very substantial medical bill to the jail. A medical bill that could have at least been partially avoided. Because of the acts of the public defender, we were not able to do that. And when I say substantial, it's substantial. So the Budget Committee, and appropriately so, I believe, was looking for other funding sources to be able to at least recover some of that bill when it comes in. And as Jay set out, this doesn't affect the maintenance of effort with the other funding source. This is going to help a little bit if we are able to put those funds into paying for the medical bills. We haven't gotten them all yet. We should be giving a report on that to the Budget Committee before too long. I think we're starting to get the last of them brought in. So hopefully that adds a little bit more understanding of why we're trying to do this, to offset the cost to the taxpayers. Thank
All
you,
right.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir. Commissioner Varon?
Yeah, I was just concerned, shouldn't we have a resolution to set up the new one so that before we repeal this one, just as a matter of continuity, so that things wouldn't change from day to day and then back and forth, you know?
Yeah, I think, and I don't want to speak for Commissioner Beauchamp, but I think the intent of the motion was that currently there are defendants being charged $12.50, whether or not they have the public defender or not. If they bring in private counsel, they get charged. If the court finds, if the PD's office has a conflict, that defendant still is getting charged that amount. And I think the intent of the motion is to clean that up and then start anew.
And whatever deficit we have on that 75% have to be made up if there is a deficit. So just be aware there. So whatever we give DA, we've got to give public defender 75% of that.
Yeah. All right, Commissioner Smallridge.
I intend to support the motion, but I think we should get a breakdown of the budget, of the public defender's budget. I'd like to at least take a look at that.
Well, vast
Kind
majority
of be,
is state money.
Pardon?
Vast majority is state money. I think the only things we've got the 75% match and then the litigation tax, and Robbie's not here, but I think that's about it as far as what
Yeah.
the county puts
I
into.
think it's a $42,000 expenditure.
Right.
All right, Commissioner Foster.
If I remember correctly, Robbie said at the budget committee meeting that we would still be within that 75% range. When we had this discussion in budget committee, that we still were gonna meet our, maintenance of effort.
Commissioner Isbell.
Just for a little math work there, if it's 22,000 a year at 1250, that's 1,760 cases. That's a lot.
Yeah. I don't think it's decreasing either. All right. See no other discussion. And it does need 2/3 vote, correct?
It was passed by 2/3. If we don't achieve that, then I'll issue an opinion between now and next month, whether it can get by with a majority vote. But we've always taken the position if we have to pass something by 2/3, we have to repeal it by 2/3.
Kobe, do you have that fixed on the board? Thank you, sir. All right, go to the board and vote, please. You're out of business? I'm not. Yeah, if we just do a show of hands. All in favor of the motion signify by raising your right hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir.
I'm back to, are you ready to proceed?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I think we're good with the action items, I
Okay.
believe.
Just a couple things. Don't forget to look at the Arcadis annual report. That's there. It's quite long. And the TDEC approval of their annual report. There was a couple of concerns. We still have elevated levels of benzene and manganese. So Mr. Barron pointed that out. I did contact the mayor and a couple of commissioners in that area about, we had a tree fall on the overflow culvert in Godwin Pond. And that pond is the natural filtration of not only surface water, but subsurface water. And we lost about 4 feet of level in that pond last week. I informed TDEC, and TDEC said that our numbers are very good in Godwin Pond. There was no problem with some of that leaking out. Arcadis was on site that afternoon and is going to fix that issue for us post haste. We've got the solar panels fixed. You'll see that in the annual report. But if you look at that and you have any questions, send me an email or call me, and I'll get to the bottom. One other issue here I wanted to bring up is the domestic violence court. I wasn't going to talk about this, but the 2 honorable judges of General Sessions here, I issued an opinion, I guess it was a week ago, and basically noting some issues about the authority to have the court and the structure of the court. And I don't think I've ever seen anything move so fast in my life as far as the correctness here in Anderson County government since I've been here. The honorable judges, I applaud their action. They acted quickly with Ms. Collins. They corrected just everything about it and were easy to work with and did a super job. And that's kind of odd for county government to have something like this worked out within a week. But thank them so much, and I appreciate it. You didn't have to come tonight. I wasn't going to speak about it, but since you were sitting there, but thank you for working that out so quick. That's all I have. Any questions tonight?
All right.
Thank you, sir.
Jay. All right. Operations Committee Report. Chairman Isbell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Resolution number 24-01-1150. Commissioner Wandell made a motion to approve that resolution to create the Veteran Service Office, position of Director of Veterans Services and the Veterans Services Advisory Committee with date change and modification of simple majority. Seconded by Commissioner Allen. Motion passed unanimously to forward to full commission for approval.
Those changes have been made that Commissioner Palmer wanted. I also changed the date in like 3 different places there, and the language you want to put in that last subsection.
Thank you. All right, we have a motion for approval by Commissioner Yeager, seconded by Commissioner Allen. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Under the mayor's report, Commissioner Palmer made a motion to authorize the mayor to meet with the cities of Clinton, Norris, and Rocky Top in order to gain clear understanding of their assets and get their input on preferences for joint funding and/or joint operation, as well as any other input they would like to offer for the library. Seconded by Commissioner Allen. Motion passed unanimously to forward to full commission for approval.
All right. Do we have a motion? Is anybody, okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Smallridge, seconded by Commissioner Palmer. Commissioner Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We had some discussion at operations last week about the funding structure for the libraries, and something that was kind of floated out there was potentially reducing the city property taxes of Oak Ridge and Oliver Springs, since they don't use it. But I asked the library directors to pull some data. This is at Clinton Library alone. They have 802 active patrons with an Oak Ridge zip code, and 135 Oliver Springs zip code residents that actively use the Clinton Library. And there's a couple dozen Oak Ridge residents that use Rocky Top, and about a couple dozen that use Norris, and a handful of Oliver Springs that use Rocky Top and Norris. So for their county tax dollars, they are using the libraries that they pay for, not just their own city library. But I thought that was kind of an important point to make if we go forward with that discussion. So thank you,
sir. All right. We have a motion and a second. Seeing no other discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
That concludes the action items, but there was one there for ASAP. The Executive Director, Shayla Wilson, will be giving an update on ASAP to Commission Quarterly beginning in July. Prevention Coordinator Savannah Mead and Sarah Bean gave an update on the percentage of students over the state and county who vape or use e-cigarettes, and the number of vape stores in the area. And the discussion was is sending this to the legislative committee for this discussion, and the law director said it'd have to be from state action to try to do some more enforcement, because we've got a lot of underage buying. So
gotcha.
But my motion would be to send it to legislative committee for discussion, if that's okay with the chairman.
Yes, sir. All right, we have a motion to send it to legislative committee, seconded by Commissioner Yeager. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That concludes the Operations Committee report.
Yes, sir. All right, Fire Commission, Commissioner Beauchamp.
Thank you very much. The Anderson County Fire Commission was called to order Tuesday, May 7th, at 6:30. The approval of the April meeting was approved by Ambria Croth and seconded by Dusty Sharp. Unfinished business, truck resolution, we addressed that tonight. It went before the budget, and they had all agreed that they would like the money to be split amongst all of them. Workshop regarding EMS First Responder Program. Director Sweet will be emailing out agreements soon. Dr. Cox has approved the protocols, and the equipment is still in the process of being acquired. Section C, AC Water Authority, send a letter to the Water Authority. Motion made by Cameron's, seconded by Ambria, to have Section 3, Part B removed to the correspondent with each other. Larry Clowers, the general manager of the AC Water Authority, has agreed to speak with his supervisors and see how to go about getting it to where the chiefs can be notified of the water outages in the community. We talked about the radio agreements, and Bryce advised us that all radios have now been dispersed to all county departments. They made a motion by Justin Bailey, seconded by Ambria Croft, to approve a budget of $100 a month to be paid to the secretary to record our minutes, and that would be taken out of the EMA line item. And then the next monthly meeting will be June 4th at 6:30.
All right. Thank you, ma'am. Any questions for Commissioner Beauchamp? Yes. All right, unfinished business. We had a joint workshop plan with Planning Commission that had to be rescheduled. A tentative, I throw this out there, opioids meeting on June 13th at 6 o'clock. And I think that with Mr. Joe, his last name is escaping me, but
Barrett.
yeah. Thursdays are the days that he needs to meet. So how does June the 20th at 6 p.m. sound for everybody? For a joint workshop with Planning Commission. If it works for everybody, then we'll just kind of move forward, and if something happens, we'll disperse.
Mr. Edwards, myself, has reached out to Joe, but we hadn't got a reply yet. But,
Okay. If something happens, we'll.
Is that something, worst case, we could have at least recorded, so some of us, if something comes up, we could at least watch it, so we're informed?
I think very much so, yeah. All right, under new business, letter of support to DOE.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. This came kind of last minute. I forwarded you the email from Amy Fitzgerald, who was asking if perhaps we could sign on for support. I have a draft letter that I distributed via email to you. Essentially, this is asking, we will get this into NACO. This is asking for the U.S. Department of Energy to develop a new grant program based on the Department of Defense Community Infrastructure Pilot Program. And all of those details of that particular program under DOD are in that letter, but I'm asking for authorization to be able to send this letter.
Thank you, ma'am. All right, we have a motion and a second for approval. Commissioner Vandergriff.
Do I need to abstain since I'm a DOE contractor?
That would be for cause, lower the vote count for majority approval.
Good. All right. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? One abstention, Commissioner Vandergriff. All right, any announcements? Seeing none, motion to adjourn.